Hi, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox. Today I have a fun project that's a pop-up card with a little twist to it. And this particular pop-up card is using unicorn and rainbows because it's for my 8-year-old granddaughter. So you'll see here I'm using the Fairy Tale Friends by My Favorite Things, the stamp and die set, and I use all the unicorns and the rainbow. And then I'm also going to be using the magical rainbow die, also by My Favorite Things. So because I want to really show you how to do the pop-up card, I did the coloring all ahead of time. So I did the unicorns. There's three different unicorns, but I actually did 4, so you have a duplicate of one of them. And then I did the rainbow as well, and there's some little hearts. I did 3 hearts, with the heart stamp. And then I used 2 of the sentiments, but we'll get to that later. And then I have this rainbow. This is from the die, and I cut 6 different colors of the rainbow, colors of paper, and using this die, and then cut a white one with the plain part of that die too. It's a 2-part die, and then put it together. But I set that aside now, and right now I'm going to work on my card base. So the card base you see I have folded. In my case, this particular card is that sheet of paper is 10 by 5.5, so 5.5 wide and 10 in length, and then the fold in the center. So when folded, it's 5.5 by 5. And then I put some Post-it tape on the fold so that I'm going to color the front of this card base, and I want to not get any of the ink on the back side, so I put a piece of tape there. Now you can use purple tape or frog tape, anything that's not going to mar your paper. In this case, I just thought Post-it tape is about the easiest. And then I'm going to make a cloud background, and I'm doing this by using Tumble Glass, peacock feathers, and Seedless Preserve, Distress Oxide inks, a blending brush, and the cloud stencil by My Favorite Things. And I'm just going to do, for this sake of a better word, kind of rows of clouds. And I'm just going to do a few with the Tumble Glass, then I'll go to the peacock feathers, and then I'll kind of blend the peacock with the Seedless Preserve when I get down to the bottom, because Seedless Preserve is kind of a strong color. And every time I do a kind of row of these clouds, I rotate the stencil. Now, this stencil, if you don't have it or haven't used one of them, it has 4 different cloud profiles on, one on each side. You can actually flip it over also and then have the reverse of that, so you can actually get 8 different kind of clouds. I should have done that in this case, but I wasn't thinking. But you can see I just do rotate it, and I'm going to use just that little bit of Seedless Preserve, and then you'll see that I'll use a little Seedless Preserve, and then I'll also use a little bit of the peacock feathers. I want it to blend a little bit, but I also want contrast. So I'm just being really careful about that Seedless Preserve because it can get pretty strong. And I'm going to do a few rows of this and increasing the intensity of my ink of the purple each time. I'm going to sneak in one more row, just because I don't want to have a white border. I want it to be clouds all the way down. So I'm going to put another row of the Seedless Preserve. Now with that done, I'm going to peel off the Post-it note tape. I'm going to clean off my surface really, really well, because we're going to work on the inside of the card, and I don't want to mess up what I just did. You can know, I learned from experience not to do that because I've messed up too many cards when I didn't clean up properly. So now this is the inside of the card. I'm going to put that same piece of Post-it tape and I'm going to work on the top part of the inside. I'm going to do exactly what I did on the front. I'm using the same cloud stencil, the same Distress Oxide inks. And you can see I started out with a dirty stencil, and I thought better of that, thought I better take my own advice and clean that off before I mess up everything else. So I'm doing the same thing where I'm using the varied colors, going from lighter to more intense as I work down. And then I'm going to peel that off, and we're going to, on the bottom, I'm just going to rub some of that ink on using the same 3 colors. Now, when the insert gets in here, you're only going to see like 1/4 of an inch of the bottom part all the way around. The top, you'll see the clouds, especially the top part of the clouds, but not this bottom part of the card. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to blend that on. I don't care if it has little bits of darker blotches of ink, because I like that. It kind of adds some interest to it. So now that that is done, I'm going to take some water and a paintbrush, and I'm going to splatter droplets of water, because this is a water reactive ink. And I'm going to blot them off because I wanted those kind of water spots that, I like that look. And then I've gone ahead and cleaned off my glass mat again. And I'm taking the same Post-it tape, and I'm taking a stencil. This is Dreaming Nights by Hero Arts. And I'm going to take some Nouveau Moonstone embossing paste, and I'm going to put on a few clouds. I'm going to spread this on. Now be sure that you don't touch any of the ones that you already did unless they're completely dry, because otherwise they'll get completely messed up. Now you can see I have tape all over those. It's because I'm isolating certain clouds. I don't want the other ones to get in there, so I'm taping them off. And then now that that was completely dry, now that Moonstone embossing paste was completely dry, and now I am taking Star Confetti stencil by My Favorite Things, and it has all these stars. Now it has way more stars than I wanted. So again, I took some tape, and I'm just taping off and just leaving a few of those stars that I want to be able to put on here, and the rest of them where the tape is, I'm blocking that off so I can go ahead and spread my embossing paste and not get stars everywhere that I don't want them. I hope that makes sense for you, because it really helps when you block off those areas that you don't want to get embossing paste. And now that that's done, and we're going to set that aside, and we're going to work on the insert of this card. So the insert is about 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around. I did not fold it. It's very important not to fold it yet. It will get folded later, but that's in a later step. So I have just this piece that, like I say, it's 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around. And then I'm taking the clouds, the stitch cloud dies by My Favorite Things. I'm going to take 2 of them, one at the top. I like that little, big puffy cloud there. So I'm going to do that one at the top, and then one that's a little more subtle at the bottom. And I'm going to run this through my Big Shot, and so I can have these nice cloud edges. So with that done, you can see I'm going to take these off, and you can see there's my edges. And I really like the way that looked. It really turned out. It's great for this particular theme of a card. Like I say, you're going to see in the next week or two, you're going to see some different pop-up cards that I have done that are different motifs, different themes. So they don't have to be, cutesy like this for an 8-year-old. They can be, really fun for anyone. But I'm taping this down now, and I have a template off to the right that's going to show you all the markings that I'm going to put on the paper. But first I want to know where the center is of my paper. So I've marked a line where my center is, and then I'm going to make these 3 long rectangles. Now in the center, the rectangle is a 1/2 inch wide, and it is 3 3/4 long, with it be, centered right in the center. So it's 7/8 above the fold and 7/8 below the fold, and it's a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm just making marks, finding the center and then marking 1/4 on each side so it gets a 1/2 inch. Now, you'll see I have that template off to the side for your reference, but if you pop over to the blog, you'll see it there as well. So you can get, a good long look at it, and you can, follow along if you have that just right there in front of you. So I'm going to mark off that rectangle. And I want to mark where the center is and the top and the bottom. And you'll see on my diagram there, where you see dotted lines in the red, those are fold lines. Well, any of the dotted lines are fold lines actually. And then with that center done, 3/4 of an inch from each edge, I'm going to make a rectangle that is 2.5 inches long. Now it's a 1/2 inch above the fold and 2 inches below the fold, making it a total of 2.5 inches, and it's only 3/8 of an inch wide. Now I'm using a see-through, it's called C, the letter C, dash through ruler. You can find them on our website. I can't live without these because it makes it so much easier, super easy for me to measure these out and keep everything straight, because I can just put the lines, know exactly where they should be, because I can see through where they are, and then it has this nice grid on there that makes it really easy for me to know, what the measurement actually is. So it's much easier for me to use these than it is for a solid ruler. But whatever ruler you have, doesn't matter. So again, I'm going to repeat. These two, I'm going to put them on each side. It's going to be 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the paper, left and right. And then it's going to be 3/8 of an inch wide. And it's going to be 2.5 inches long, with 1/2 inches above the fold and 2 inches below the fold. We're also going to make a little line, a little dotted line, and you'll see that of this long rectangle that's going to have a 1/2 inch fold to it. But right now I have an X-Acto knife, and I'm just making the long cuts right there, right along on the line. I'm not cutting out this rectangle. I'm just making the long linear vertical lines, and then the others are all going to be folds. So that's all you're going to make. You're going to make 6 lines. So you have 3 rectangles and 2 lines for each one of them. So you can see I'm kind of lifting that up. You can see I'm making sure I've cut through them. Same thing for the center now. Sometimes you just have to make sure that it's cut really nicely. And you want to make sure they're even too. You don't want one side of the rectangle longer than the other. You want them exactly the same size. That's really critical for this to work right. Now I'm going to take a scoreboard. You can use anything to make the folds, but now I'm just going to make little fold lines everywhere where there is not a rectangle. So in between the rectangles, I'm making a little score mark on the half mark. That half, right at half of the paper We're making that mark, and then I'm making a little score mark right at the end of each of these rectangles. So each one, now I made a little mark where I shouldn't have, so I just burnished that out. And now I just want to make sure I'm making this real even and getting it on the scoreboard straight. So I'm making that little line, each of these, the top and the bottom of each of these rectangles. I'm doing it on both sides because I want a good mobility. And I'm making score lines. So that's at the top and the bottom of each of these three rectangles. Then I also had the marks. Remember, I have the half mark of the one in the center. The center one does get a fold, the center rectangle. And then the two on the sides, that one gets one at half an inch from the bottom. Again, really, if you look at my diagram, it will show you everything that you need to know so that you know. You can alter how far apart those rectangles are. That's not a problem, but do follow exactly where the folds are. You want to have a half an inch. See that I'm making a little half-inch fold right there. I don't want any center fold. See, and then I folded those down. See how they have, now I have three, I call them arms. One that's short and two long ones. And I'm going to erase all of my pencil marks. It's not that critical. They're not going to see them that much, but I do like it to keep it really clean. Now I'm going to burnish this down so that I get a really nice fold. So you see there, now that's going to give me my different layers. So now I'm going to have two pieces of paper here that are the width of the paper that, you know, of my insert. And I'm going to take these stitch cloud dies again, two of them, because I'm going to make two layers here. One of the layers is going to go up a little bit higher and one's going to be lower, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So I've cut those, and so see I have one there, so that's how it's going to look. So I want them kind of staggered, so I want it to not be as high as the clouds on the base of this, but I want it to go just a little bit further. So I'm going to mark, well, I got to cut some of this off because I only want it to go to the fold. And then on the other one, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to make sure. Now, I made marks where those little arms were. I don't know if you noticed, I was taking the pencil and I was just kind of, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I just laid it up against it and so, oh, that's where those little arms stick up, and I need to accommodate those. See how that, so that now that fits in there, just like that. And this is slightly too wide, so I'm going to just trim that off to be the same width of this insert base. And so this is my next layer. You can see how now I have these clouds that are starting to get kind of step down. And the next layer, I'm getting an idea where I want it to be, and then I'm going to mark where it hits the fold and make sure it's not too long. And I'm going to trim a little bit off the bottom. So now that I have that trimmed off the bottom, see how that works? It's all staggered now. So I'm going to take back to my same three colors, and I'm going to just use a little bit of tumble glass, and I'm just doing the edges. And I'm going to do the edges on top and bottom. I'm not going to worry about the sides, just top or bottom. Now, because this is at the bottom, I decided to do a little bit of the peacock feathers and the seedless preserve. And then for wiping this off again, we're going to keep, everything really clean because we've got this far. We don't want to mess it up. And I put more of the top of the clouds on each one of these pieces. Now this may seem like a lot, but it really isn't. It goes really pretty quick. It's just that once you get it down, and that after you've done one, then you're an expert and you can just zip through any others that you want to do, and it's limitless. The next ones, like I say, you're going to see that they're going to be a different theme, and they work great. So now I've taped down using that same tape again. I've taped down the insert, and I'm going to put a sentiment on the inside. So this will go on the inside of the card. My granddaughter always gets cards from me, and she always is so excited what I'm going to do next. That's kind of the sad thing, is that the bar gets higher and higher each time. So now we're going to put these little pieces in place. So I'm going to just put a dab of glue right in the center, nowhere else. You won't need it. Believe it or not, it stays really secure. I'm just using some liquid glue, and I'm just going to fold that down and make sure that when you fold it back up, it's down even with the base. So see, it's standing up. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to put glue on each of the little, arms on left and right. And do the same thing. See, that just actually sticks by itself. I like to fold it down because then it, see, look how I love how those clouds look. It's really great. So now we have our layers. So all the hard part is done. And so now we're going to take all the pieces that we made before. I cut some stars from a Neat and Tangled Seeing Stars die. And I have my hearts. And I took some of the clouds. I think they're called cute clouds by My Favorite Things. And I cut some of those. And you can see I did the inside of the card. It has the little stars. And now now's the time to kind of decorate. Now you're going to take all your pieces and you're going to add them on to where you're going to just arrange them however you think they should go. And then you're just going to put a little bit of glue on each one of them and put them in place. Now when you go at the end of this video, you're going to see where I did an envelope and you'll see the card. You'll notice that the stars here are really shiny. On the other ones, you're going to see that they aren't so shiny and they're out of a little bit different paper. I wasn't that thrilled with the shiny ones, so I actually pulled them off after I got the card all done and then recut some stars because I thought that they would look better. So I'm going to glue on this rainbow, and then my jumping, is jumping over the rainbow, my unicorn, and then I'll put the clouds in place. You can never have too many clouds. They're always so cute. And it's just glue. You don't want to, this is a kind of a thick card anyway, so you don't want to add any foam tape. You want to just glue it on because you do have the layers already. And then I'm just going to continue on with each of these layers by just adding some glue. And then you'll see I'll put these stars in place, but I wasn't that crazy about them, like I said, so I changed the color of them slightly. on these clouds, they are cut into, when you cut them, I cut them out of Neenah cardstock. They're in two pieces. There's an outline and then the actual body of the cloud. So I colored just with a Copic marker just the edges of them. Doing a little pruning to my stars. I can't wait to show you some of the other ones that I've done using this, and like I say, you will see them in the next little bit, because they were a lot of fun too, and they were for all different, not only occasions, but for would work for anybody. It doesn't have to be for a little 8-year-old. So don't limit yourself. Think about all the ways that you could make these layered kind of inserts. It's so much fun for the person that's receiving them. Now, the one thing you have to be really sure of is the last bit of clouds. Whatever you stick on there, make sure it doesn't stick out too far, otherwise it'll stick outside your card. So you have to keep those kind of tight in. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, see this little S? It's 3/4 of an inch, and then it's scored twice, so you can make that little S. So so the little folds are 1/4 inch in on each one of them. So that little 1/4 inch, one of those little tabs of the 1/4 inch, I'm gluing it to the back of it. And you'll see why I'm doing that. And the rest of that is just kind of hanging, out there. I'm just gluing that one little tab, and then I'm putting glue on the bottom. And we're going to mount this on the inside of our card base. So here we go. We're going to put this in place, but I got a little glue there, so we're going to clean this off, because we've come a long way now. We don't want it messed up. We already decided that. And so I'm going to insert this, but I'm not going to put it even with that fold. I'm going to back it up about 1/4 of an inch, and you'll see I'll mark it there. I'm sorry you have to see my head there for a second. See that 1/4 inch from the fold? And you'll see that that little little hinge thing that I created is going to keep the top of it in line 1/4 of an inch. So 1/4 inch from the fold. This is really important, because this is what's going to allow it to stand away from the base of the card and really give it one more extra dimension. So I put a little bit of glue on the other one of those little hinges, and I just taped that down. And then I made a little cloud. This was made out of those same stitch cloud dies, and I just, just cut the top and the bottom, and it created a cloud, stamped a sentiment on it, and then remembered the rainbow that I colored with Copic markers that's part of the stamp set. I'm just going to put that on there along with our little unicorn. And then you'll see I also added a few of those same moonstone embossing paste clouds, and then the gold embossing paste stars. Same thing as I did on the inside. And then see how that opens, and then I want to just make sure that that stands away, and I'm going to show you that just as soon as I stop fiddling with this. I'm going to show you why this is so important. See how that just, I want that to just stand away, just that 1/4 of an inch. So it's taking a piece of paper, just a small one, that's 3/4 of an inch long, and I didn't like where the position was, so I'm just kind of undid that, and now I'm going to put more glue, so I'm just taking that adhesive off right now. Didn't realize that I put this part in here, but it might as well. So see that little tab? So the center doesn't get any glue, just the two ends. So the glue, so just a little bit of glue there. And then, oh, sorry for my head. Once again, you have to see it. And then it causes it to stand away that 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute so it gets good and dry. And take a little tool and push it down. I want to make sure that it sticks really nicely. Just the tab, the 1/4 inch tab to the back of the card base and a 1/4 inch tab to the back of the insert, and that leaves you in the center a 1/4 of an inch, and it stands away. So there you can see the gap. That's what you're searching for. And then it closes really nicely. So here it is. It's all complete. You have a nice display, a nice scene. And here is the completed card with the envelope that I made that matches. And then it opens up to this really nice surprise. You notice that it was Mac. That's for my little granddaughter. Her name is Mackenzie, but she goes by Mac. And she got this really nice card just for her 8th birthday. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. And we'd be over the moon, or maybe I should say over the rainbow, if you would subscribe if you haven't already. And pop over to our blog for more inspiration. And there you'll find that diagram that you can study that if you want. And then also a complete supply list and oodles more photos and close-ups. Thanks again. And we'll see you next time.